Good evening, everybody. Welcome aboard to the Lastella Report. Final evening of programming tonight on the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network. My guys, Christian and Drew, along with me. Guys, two more nights until the NFL draft. How are we doing?
Oh, I'm living all right. Very excited for draft night. Christian's obviously going to be there. That'll be a lot of fun for him. Draft night's one of my favorite nights of the year. Can't wait to give a little pre-draft coverage. The next two nights, it's going to be a lot of fun. In a very loaded draft, and it's always a good night on the Stellar Report.
Yeah, as soon as I heard that Dom Dalla playing, I knew it was a good night. We're back on the Lastella Report. That song coursed through my veins. I know that I'm gonna be chatting some sports with my boys, so I'm happy. I'm excited. It's gonna be a great night of filming. I'm literally sitting outside of McDonald's right now. I'm connected to the McDonald's Wi-Fi, so let's see how this rolls today, fellas.
If you saw my face at the beginning, it's because I heard a screeching echo and I thought we were going to get off to a roaring start with that McDonald's internet, but we're pushing through. We're surviving, kind of like the Suns are surviving over the Timberwolves right now, up one at the half, 51-50. Looking to even up that series and steal home court and head back to Phoenix. At the break, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant leading the way. Book with 11, or excuse me, Book with 13, KD with 11. For the T Wolves, been a bit of a starting performance for those guys. Mike Conley with 14, Jaden McDaniels with 12, and Rudy Gobert with 12 himself. We'll check in with that game as it goes. And then at the end of the first, Pacers up 4 over the Bucks, 30-26. We'll see if the Pacers can come back in that series. That's the one that I said last night was going to be the upset. But, Tyrese Halliburton's got to show up for that to happen. But last night, Knicks Sixers, that was the game. In my opinion, that was one of the worst endings to a game I've seen in quite a while. I think we have the clip. I don't know for sure, but I thought we might have had the clip of the ending of that game. I don't know. Did you guys see the ending of Knicks Sixers at all last night?
The Tyrese Maxey foul, right?
Yep.
I was about to say.
I didn't see the clip, but I've heard it was probably the most awful no call like ever.
And not getting, they called two timeouts, didn't get it, and Maxey got fouled. Yeah, that was an atrocious ending.
The refs agree, or I guess I don't know, the refs boss, the league, their liaison, they agree with you guys. They came out. So the scenario was that the Sixers were up 5 with about 27 seconds left. Knicks, Jalen Brunson hits a 3, gets to the rim in. All of a sudden, they're down 2. Sixers go to inbound it. They turnover, sort of. They had the ball, and then all of a sudden there was a foul, but no call. The reason I say there was a foul was because the league came out today and said that Tyrese Maxey was fouled by Brunson in the corner there on the inbounds pass, and that the Sixers should have been given a timeout. So overall, that's a tough ending there for the Sixers as they were trying to steal one and head back to Philly. But now they're down 0-2, and the Knicks are rolling with momentum, and they got a chip on their shoulder because everyone said they should lose that game. I don't know. Kevin said Knicks in 4. I could see the Sixers maybe stealing one on their home court, but it is not going to be easy. We shall see what goes on with that. But I'm really interested to see what happens with this Pacers-Bucks game tonight. Is Tyrese Halliburton going to show up? Or are the Bucks just that much of a machine even without Giannis? Can they pull it out with another monstrous performance from either Chris Middleton or Damian Lillard? I'm still baffled about this. We were mentioning it last night. Where in the world is Tyrese Halliburton? He's going to need to step up in this series, in this game tonight. We shall see. The nightcap tonight is Lakers versus Clippers versus Mavs. And we talked about that one last night as well. Clips, they bullied their way to a big first half over the Mavs. Mavs fought back in the second half, but not enough. So we shall see if the Mavs come out with a little more physicality in the first half tonight, or if the Clips are just going to bully their way to a Game 2 victory as well. That's what's going on in the world of NBA. More developing, as always, in these crazy playoffs, but a lot going on in the world of college sports. Specifically today, something came out in college football that caught my attention. I'll put this out here before we get into it. I am not a fan of private equity in anything. Job markets, homes, schools. It's a slippery slope, right? Money's always a good thing. Private equity, there's no shortage of that money. There's many different firms, and that's something that they all have. They all have money, and they can invest in your company. They can invest in your school. They can invest in your NIL program if that's something you want. But the leagues themselves, the NBA, MLB, they haven't been affected by private equity. You see the Saudi league, their private equity. There's some private equity in the Saudi league. Obviously, they got Saudi money as well, so it's not all private equity with that in golf. But so today it came out that Derek Dooley, former Tennessee head coach, is lobbying on behalf of these private equity firms in an attempt to try to create a G5 playoff backed by private equity. Still really unsure the whole details of how it would work. But Mike Oresco had this idea brought up to him in the past. The AAC commissioner, who is retiring in a couple weeks, to be replaced by Tim Pernetti. But he didn't want to be in some type of G5 playoff, not private equity. That wasn't part of the equation, but a G5 playoff that annexes you. AAC, you're with the little guys at that point. You're in the minor leagues compared to the super playoffs or whatever they call it. Whenever that gets created at the moment, the college football playoffs. But private equity cannot and has no place in sports. It's all about a bottom line with private equity. They're going to be worried about how much money the AAC is bringing in, how much money the Sun Belt is bringing in, and if they're not bringing in enough money, budget cuts. So it cannot. College sports budget schools have to deal with budget cuts on their own, right? If the league that they're a part of, if the overall organization that they're dealing with is also dealing with budget cuts, then what is the point of being a part of it? Right? If you need to help so and so private equity firm meet their bottom line, and whatever that may mean in college sports, it's impossible, right? You look at a business that's backed by private equity. They need to make more money, so they cut half the staff. The small business that owned it before, they kept that staff because they could. They weren't worried about the bottom line like a private equity firm. Right? If it comes its way into college sports, there's no way to know how that will work. But who knows? Maybe they introduce relegation, and then all of a sudden, one bad season in college football, you're down a league, and that's just not. Injuries happen in college football, so I am not a fan of this. I will wait for more information to come out. But at the moment, I am just very, very cautious of really stepping foot into private equity. Derek Dooley being the face of this and dealing with being the salesperson for these private equity firms. That's the exact word used by the Athletic article by Chris Vanini. So that to me, Derek Dooley, in my opinion, you are the vault salesman from Fallout at this point. I mean, and it didn't end well for the vault salesman. He got hit by nuclear fallout in Fallout, if you don't know that video game. So you know what? I don't know why Derek Dooley has now, where it went from Tennessee to the NFL to now lobbying for private equity firms, but no, hard pass. So that was some college football news that came out today that I just wanted to address. I don't know if you guys are familiar with private equity at all, but it's not something that really, in my opinion, has a place in college sports.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. And I just feel like anyone that just cares about the well being, the correctness, the principle of college athletics would be against um, a G5 playoff. But we're well aware that there are some schools, there are some people, there are some um, higher up individuals that do not care about that. Um, it's just I feel like it's discriminatory. There's teams that are better in the G5 than the P5. It's wrong. On all fronts, everyone works for a goal of a national championship, including the G5 guys. They work towards that New Year's Six Bowl. They work towards making the college football playoff. Imagine if Cincinnati isn't able to make the Power Five playoff, but they're the fourth best team in the country. Imagine they're still in the AAC and they missed out because of that. So it's just wrong on all fronts. Schools don't work to get to that point where they're discriminated against, where they're playing in a G5 playoff. It's wrong on all fronts.
Yeah, I mean, UCF could won a national championship like that for real. But sorry, US or UCF. But yeah, no, I don't like it. I think I for all the reasons you guys have been saying, I just think that it's a bad idea. Because another thing is we're already dealing with enough antics throughout mid majors and with smaller P5s as far as teams jumping ship from their conferences to go to the Big Ten and the SEC, because now the Big Ten is the Big 14. Um, so my thing is, now that all of these teams are trying to go already, you're not going to have a G5 national championship tournament, whatever the heck you want to call it, within 2 years, because everybody's going to be in the SEC, the ACC, the Big 10, the Big 12, because they're going to be like, no, we're better than this, and then they're going to move on. And then Drew, like you said, like some P5s are, I mean, some G5s are better than P5s, because look, 2 years ago, a AAC Tulane team beat a USC team in a bowl game, in a New Year's Six bowl game, with that year's Heisman Caleb Williams leading the opposite team. So I don't think that it's a good idea, because it's really every given Saturday. And then another thing, we're already dealing with enough madness in the transfer portal as is. God forbid you're going to get more guys jumping ship trying to go P5s that would just dominate at the G5 level. And then how does this affect sports that aren't football and basketball? Because Robbie, you talked about budget cuts. I did a sport that was probably the most budget cutted during COVID in men's swimming. Throughout all of COVID, like every 2 weeks, I'm getting I'm on the phone with schools that are recruiting me saying, yeah, we're cutting our men. We don't have the athletic funding anymore. So that's stuff that people have to care about outside of just college football and men's basketball. Is how does this affect 85% of the other sports that are on campus?
It's a very valid concern, and if private equity finds its way into the smaller conferences, I would be very concerned for smaller sports who don't bring in a lot of revenue on their own, because that's also what private equity does. Is if you're not bringing in revenue, you're out of there. So very interested to see what happens with that. Another note from that I didn't like is former Big Ten Commissioner Jim Delaney said that the AAC, Sun Belt, and CUSA would consider geographically merging in that type of setup. FAU has worked its way to get out of CUSA. A merge would just erase all the work that FAU has put in to get up to a conference like the AAC over the past couple of years. And I know all the conferences in the AAC would feel the same way. Imagine if Memphis gets left out of the big school. Imagine if they had to play Sam Houston State. I don't think the Memphis faithful, I don't even think they could think of a cruel nickname to give Sam Houston State. I think it would just be pure depression at that point. So a lot to consider if that goes on, but I don't know. I got to keep an eye on it. But in the world of college basketball, FAU, they finally landed that first commit. It was it was a bit of a waiting period after that, and here we go. AJ State and
That was
McCray.
clean. I don't know if there was a foul right there. That is all ball. And that is
Looks
an
like a beautiful block to
incredible
me,
play.
Robbie.
It looks clean
Wow.
to me. So, folks, that is
Man.
your newest FAU
With the
AJ
game on the line, that is an
McCray State,
incredible block that just got taken away from
Delray
safety.
Beach
Gene
native,
Steratore, do you agree with us?
former of the Sanford
I do
Bulldogs
agree
in
with you
the past
guys.
4 years. Man, I am excited to have him in paradise. I think Coach Jake has really moved diligently after Nick Boyd, Elijah Martin announced they weren't coming back to FAU, and got in a guy who's, you talk about the South Florida takeover in football. Let's do it in basketball too. There is talent, endless talent coming out of South Florida in basketball. State McCray played Blanche Eli in Miami, I believe. That's where that is in his earlier part of his high school career, and then transferred to Westwood Oaks in Orlando. So he's played all over the state. Played buckyball, which if you're not familiar with buckyball, the Samford coach, it's high offense, high octane, getting out in transition, hustle effort, and that's exactly what John Jacobs is looking to do in this offense. So I'm extremely excited for this pickup. He improved his 3-point percentage greatly over the past year. In his first 3 years in Alabama at Samford, he was in the high 20s in the 3-point percentage. Last year, up to 43%. If he can replicate that, even somehow improve that, it would be insane for FAU to have a 3-point shooter that can shoot that consistently. Just come in with also the experience of being a point guard. He's a combo guard. I'm just really, really excited for his potential here. Any thoughts?
Oh yeah, I got a lot. Um, Dude, I'm just excited, man. Speaking of that Tri-County takeover, we've tried it the past few years. Remember Dusty May's first ever recruit, FAU legend Mike Forrest, from Lauderhill, Florida. So, yeah, but it's nice to bring in a guy locally. He has experience, winning a conference championship for a good Samford team, playing in March Madness against Kansas. And, what he adds is something that we haven't had is the height. Height coming from the guards. I can't really think of anyone above 6'3" we've had in the past 3 years. I guess that would be right guard wise. So he'll play. He could play guard. He could play in the wing. He's incredibly efficient, and he's got a lot of talent. He was a touted high school recruit. So I'm very excited. That's a good starting piece for Coach Jacobs. He was a first team all conference defensive player. So that's something I'm very excited, playing, that pit bull defense that we need to be playing because, we could score as many points as we want, but 82 to 80, we could win 82 to 81, but it's a lot better to win 82 to 55 or, 70 to 60, just giving up less points is definitely important. It makes, you don't have to make all your shots, takes the pressure off that. So very excited for AJ and, more to come this week.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of ASM coming back home. Like everybody said, he's a Delray guy. He's 15 minutes away at most with traffic from home. So I think that's going to be really good. Mom, you get to watch him play at every home game, stuff like that. Like I'm loving this pickup. Like Drew said, I love the size that he brings. You guys just saw the film. I love the athleticism. I love the 3-point shooting, and as previously stated, I love that we finally have a guard that can play defense. Because oh my God, we could not defend. We could not defend the three ball to save our life last year, and that was just consistently what was knocking us from Loyola Chicago to Northwestern. We could not defend the three ball. So being able to have we realistically had one good on ball defender last year, and that was Brian Greenlee, and he's gone because he no longer has eligibility. Now being able to have another scrappy dude who's willing to fight for loose balls and stuff like that. Like I love the pickup. I think that this is going to be the start of a very good core for him or for Coach Jacobs, and we got one, possibly two more years with him.
Yeah, like you mentioned, he's technically only has one more year, but he did not use his COVID year of eligibility, so he could petition the NCAA for one more year. We shall see. I'm excited to see how he can possibly mentor Jaquel Powell, Devin Vanterpool a little bit. Get this guy in there who's been around, been to the NCAA tournament, and seen the side of it where they were the underdogs, right? And maybe FAU is not going to be in the same position as Samford. Hopefully not, but it's interesting to get perspective from guys who have had to deal with all levels of basketball, all types of grinds. And this is a guy who he's helped Samford really rebuild their program. Bucky, when he came in there, they were not too hot, and a couple years later, they're in the NCAA tournament, almost beating Kansas. Had that video we showed you guys at the beginning of the segment been a block and not a foul, they would have went on to beat Kansas. And who knows, maybe AJ would have gotten himself deeper NCAA tournament run and made a bigger name for himself. But it worked out for FAU. The stars aligned to get him back to Boca Raton, and it's going to be awesome to see. I'm very. If you guys did not see our Twitter announcement, John Jacobs will be joining the Bleacher Brothers show with me and Drew on Thursday at 6:15 p.m. So we'll make sure to ask him about AJ, how that all developed so fast. I'm very interested to see how he had to deal with. He had to handle Elijah, John L. Vlad, Nick Boyd, all these guys in a very respectful manner, because you don't want to go out and sign AJ and then have Elijah be like, I want to come back, but you just signed this guy who's going to take my role. I'm not saying that's the case at all. It's just an example here. But, I'm sure Coach Jacobs had to think about, okay, how can I keep these guys who are here at bay while also going out and recruiting? Because I know he wasn't just sitting on his thumbs. I have a feeling he was talking to AJ and he was like, listen, I have to give these guys their time to decide what they're going to do. But the second they say, listen, we're not coming back to FAU, you're my first call. Because it developed really quickly. Because I hadn't heard that name at all prior to this week. So join us on Thursday at 6:15 for that and a whole bunch of more questions for Coach Jacobs as we get to figure out what makes this man tick. It's gonna be a fun interview for sure. But the AAC is cooking as a whole. Memphis is cooking up their own thing. 5-star Jaden. I'm gonna always butcher his last name. It's like Acquaintance. Jaden Quaintance, he announced he's not going to follow his coach. He was originally big man, 6'11", big man. He was originally committed to Coach Cal at Kentucky. Not now. Following him to Arkansas, announced he won't be going there. Still going to visit Mark Pope at Kentucky, but he's headed to Memphis this weekend. Memphis fresh off of a 5-year, $25 million deal with FedEx. That's a dangerous Tigers team already, and now they're going to potentially be adding a 5-star center. FAU's making moves in the portal, but Memphis has already added some guys, and they're still going. I'm very. How do you guys think Memphis is going to look? Right, it's tough to say. They've added a bunch of guys. They added PJ Haggerty from Tulsa, Colby Rogers, Tyrese Hunter from Texas, Baraka Okoji from George Mason. He's going to come off the bench and be very dangerous for them. And Dane Danger from Illinois. So I have my thoughts on how building a team from scratch year in year out is. I have my thoughts on that. I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are. I mean, these are all talented individuals, right? You look at that. You look at a guy like PJ Haggerty, and all these guys on an individual basis. Talented. But how do they all work together? That's the question. Is there enough time with the Rock to go around to make everyone happy?
Yeah, I think our opinions are in agreement on that, with just bringing in a fresh slate every year. Last year was kind of, it was under my impression that, hey, like, this isn't a top 15 AP ranked team that some people in their fan base think that it can be. It'll be a good team, but let's hope they could all work together. And it turned out, they couldn't work together. I think, you got to hope, if you're a Memphis fan, that Penny's learned from that. I think you'd be a fool not to learn from it. But ultimately, I think they're going to looking wise, they're going to look smaller. They bring in two guards under 6'3". They bring in Colby Rogers from Wichita State, who's a guard, and it looks like all three are probably going to start. So it's going to be a smaller, faster team than previous years, where they were bringing in people that were 6'8" wings that could shoot the three ball. They had height, but they weren't as physical. So I think it'll be a shorter team. Which I think makes sense, just with that's what works in college basketball. It's just more guards, shorter, more speed, less height. So, but the word on the street is that actually Louisville is offering. How do you say his last name? Quaintance.
I'm gonna say Quaintance. Yeah.
Quaintance. The word on the street is that they're offering him $2 million in NIL. So I'm not sure if he could turn that down. So I not that's the rumor that I've heard. So I'm not fully in belief that Memphis even has a chance if they're offering that much money.
Well, if you're offering a man $2 million, you better know how to say his last name.
Oh, I'm out to Louisville. I'll take my $2 million.
Yeah, Louisville fans, y'all better know his name by heart. But I like this Memphis team. Obviously, I'm a little scared as an FAU fan to have to play them. But like you both have said, I do believe that if you're just playing 2K, create a team every year, you're not building chemistry, you're not developing guys, you're just playing portal free agency. You see how in football and in basketball that isn't sustainable. So I do think they're going to start off hot once again this year, like they did last year, and then they might fall off a little bit, which then may lead to no longer having Penny Hardaway in Memphis. I'll be the one to bring up that conversation because everybody in their fan base is very split on that decision. But Drew, like you said, I do like the small ball slashers that Memphis is bringing in, especially PJ Haggerty, because like I can speak the most about him out of all the other guys because I've been able to watch him play live in 3 times. PJ Haggerty is a bucket and he is a problem. And he was making a splash in this conference, in this league, as a true freshman. So he's going to get another year, get bigger, develop, gain basketball IQ, learn from one of Shaq's teammates. I'm not going to say one of his good teammates, but one of Shaq's teammates. And yeah, no, I think that being able, like in all honesty, being able to develop under Penny Hardaway, having the NBA experience and what he brings as a coach with that experience is great for all of those guys. David Jones, his future remains uncertain for Memphis. He declared for the draft and hit the portal, so he probably won't be a Tiger anymore. But what is Naquan Tomlin doing? Is he coming back? I'm not familiar.
He's out of eligibility. It's looking like Nick Jourdain is going to be one of the only people back in Memphis from last year's roster. David Jones, he still could return, but he's most likely off to the NBA. We shall see. UAB is another team in the AAC to watch out for, bringing back Yaks and bringing in Greg Gordon from Iona. Bradley as a zero, another as a Wiro. Man, it's a tongue twister of a last name. And Tyron Moore, all those guys in that past schools, they all average double digits. So UAB bringing in some scorers alongside Yaxel, only losing Daniel Ortiz from last year. And a team that I like as a possible sleeper team, everyone's going to call me crazy, but the Rice Owls, they're rebuilding their NIL collective right now. And they're bringing in Rob Lanier from SMU. It sounds crazy, trust me, I know, and this year they may be, not the best, but give it some time. You know what? Rob Lanier is a good coach, and it seems like they got a new athletic director in there this year. They're bringing in somebody to revamp their NIL, add a good basketball program in there. It's not far-fetched. It may take some time, but Rice is a program that was dead to rights. You watched them on TV last year, and there was like no one in there, but give it some time. That's my sleeper AAC team to watch out for. But we shall see. Other college basketball notes before we head into break here. It's been rumored Trilly Donovan, the great college basketball burner aficionado, he reported that John L. Davis is between Arkansas and Kentucky, differentiating from our pals over at Owl's Nest. JJ Metz reporting that he was between Houston and Kentucky. Things could have changed in the past 24 hours. But as it stands right now, John L., according to Trilly, is mulling between those two and the NBA draft. I'm not too sure what's the best option for John L. Those are both two really, really good programs. You go play with Coach Cal at Arkansas. You go play at Kentucky. Kentucky speaks for itself. Blue blood. And the NBA obviously is the NBA. And if John L. believes he can put himself in a position to succeed and make money at the NBA level, all for it. That means he retires his Owls jersey and rides off into the sunset here in Boca Raton. So I know Owls faithful are rooting for that one. But I'm curious, do you guys think John L. benefits from going back to the college level one more year?
I don't know. How much more can he help his stock? He is who he is. He put it on film the past 2 years. I think just go to the draft at this point. I don't really. It would take a really, really special season to get drafted, is my opinion, at a more difficult conference.
I agree, especially because NBA scouts and GMs have gone on record and said that this is like a very weak class and one of the weaker classes we've had in the past 10, 15 years. If there's any, and this is for anybody that's declared or anything like that, if there's a year to go, it's this year. Like, honestly, that's why I actually do think Bronny James will stick it out, is because he knows that people are going to take a chance on him because they know that they're going to get his pops. And getting a year or two of LeBron and then however long with Bronny is a lot better than getting anybody else. But back to Nelly. I I think all the FAU faithful, like you said, Robbie, wants Nelly to only be an Owl and go straight to the league. I think that's the better option because Drew, like you said, there's not much he has left to prove or really showcase because Nelly can do it all. My only thing is I think he does want to get those last games of his career back and maybe leave out on more of a positive note because especially the Northwestern game, there was some serious red flags that I think left a lot of bad taste in my mouth.
Interesting to consider. I don't know how much, Dusty's preached to him over the past 4 years, never to be outcome based, result based. So it's interesting to see how much that will be weighing on his mind. Speaking of Dusty, he's been cooking up. Just got Lorenzo Cassan, former FAU commit. To commit to Ann Arbor. Looking at this roster, you got Doral Brooks, Justin Pippen, Lorenzo Cassan, and George Washington. Those first three are all freshmen. Roddy Gale coming in as a junior from Ohio State transfer. Dusty's pulling recruits from Ohio State at Michigan in his first year. Oh, my. And then, you're bringing in Trey Donaldson, a junior transfer, Ruben Jones from North Texas in his fifth year, and Sam Walters over from Alabama as well, along with Danny Wolf, the Yale transfer. Dusty has been dabbling and dancing through the portal, doing it efficiently. I love to see that he's stealing Ohio State transfers. Embrace that rivalry. You know what? Let's make a put. If Selton Miguel was still in the portal right now, I would say Jacobs should go make a push at him. He's gone, but you know what? I love the whole rivalry bout. We'll see how much. Roddy Gale gets booed when he goes back to Ohio State. But that's the college basketball landscape for you over the past 24 hours. A lot going on. The portal is never ending. We're going to take a quick break right here on the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network 102.9 The Game. When we come back, we got some MLB notes for you, some NFL draft notes from our guys who are going to be debating it out tomorrow. We'll be right back on the Lastella Report. Robbie Lastella, Drew Schuler, Christian Prosch.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
This is the story of a very special woman. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician or an entrepreneur. Her knowledge was limitless and still is. She could also make monsters disappear, especially those that lurked in the shadows under the bed. Once, this woman put back together a teenage girl's broken heart, which had been shattered in 1,000 pieces, just by giving her a bear hug. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hey, Dad, your prescription will be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad, your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey, why don't you take a minute?
When you help care for a loved one, you give them as much time as you can, making sure they're safe and comfortable. But it's just as important that you take some time for yourself. At AARP, we can help with information and useful tips on how you can maintain a healthy life balance, care for your own physical and mental well-being, and manage the challenges of caring for a loved one. Because the better care you take of yourself, the better care you can provide for your loved one.
Thanks, Dad.
Thank you.
You're there for them. We're here for you. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
They were shut out for the 8th time in their first 22 games. For the first time in Major League history, any team has been shut out that many times through their first 22 games. It was a rough weekend for the Chi Sox, man. They got outscored by the Phils 24-7. The last team to drop 18 out of 21 before last night was in 1988. That was the Orioles. who started their season 0-21. They're off to the worst start since the 03 Tigers. They finished 43-119. That Tigers team did. White Sox were rooting for him tonight. Jerry Reinsdorf's squad. Man, I don't even know. The Bulls were bad too this season. They had a little bit of a playoff run, but Jerry's having a rough go of it lately. We'll see if the White Sox can pick it up. The Guardians, though, the Guardians are rolling again tonight. At the beginning of the year, the Guardians were only projected by the odds makers they were set at over under 79.5 wins. Predicting was 80 wins. They're 17-6. That's their best start in 23 games in history for the Indians. And their payroll is only 26th in all of major leagues. That's fourth worst, in case you did not know how many teams are in the big leagues. The Indians are cooking in baseball, or the Guardians, excuse me. I'm going to get canceled. Can't call them that anymore. But, I still mess up every now and then. But it's okay. The Guardians, they are rolling. So we'll see if the Guardians can keep it up. We'll see if the White Sox can pick it up. But something that caught my eye last night, Steven's got the clip. This may have been the worst umpiring situation I've ever seen in my life. Roll it, Steven.
The 0-2. And that hit Ruiz. He did not swing, so a hit by pitch, and Astori Ruiz, who is the most dangerous base runner in baseball, is on.
See, Aaron Boone is confused. Did he swing? Did he not swing? Also, the reaction on being hit by the pitch was a little bit delayed, so an interesting start to this one. Take another look at the slider, down and in, and it clearly gets that right foot. The only question, a good look here, did he swing?
You got anything else to say? You're gone. Okay?
Oh, okay, Hunter.
Wow. You know what? We're not going to need a John Boy breakdown of that one. We got a very clear.
Aaron, we're done.
Well, there you go. And now Aaron's saying, I didn't say anything. Aaron's saying, hold on a second, I didn't say a word.
I don't care. I did not say anything, Hunter. Okay, I did not.
Hunter Wendelstedt with some aggressive rabbit ears. One batter into this game.
Work out for him.
He didn't even last till the end of roll call.
No, I don't even think they got to say Aaron Boone. So, man, I don't know. To me, MLB umpires are just asking to be replaced by robots at this point. I don't think there's NBA refs make mistakes a lot. NFL refs make mistakes a lot. But both of those games are very, very high. Like high intensity, things are moving quickly. It's tough. You miss a foul call. You don't know who hit who what. In baseball, what just occurred there, I don't have an NBA comparison for that. I don't have an NFL comparison for that. I'm sure if you do some research and whatnot, you find an NBA ejection that's a personal one. I don't think Hunter Wendelstedt was personally ejecting Aaron Boone. I just don't. I think he just didn't know what was going on. I don't know why it wasn't reviewed, but to me, umpires are the worst form of officiating in any sport, and I think they'll be replaced by robots within the next decade.
And as they should. And many people do not agree with this. I love tradition, but I also imagine a sport game where everything is perfectly called. Everything is absolutely correct. No, there's never a wrong call. It's just perfect. And robots can do it. We have the technology. Let's get it. Let's do it. Let's move on with it, MLB. I don't want to see Aaron Boone asking what's a call and get just get thrown out of the game for not saying anything. Like, come on, man. Takes away time from the game. I personally think a robot ump would be cool. I mean, I don't know about you guys. I don't like regular umps. Give me a robot ump. I'd love it. Also, I agree with Kevin. Sorry. Kevin.
I was about to say for the third time, I think C-3PO would be a lot better of an umpire than Angel Hernandez. But yeah, no, Aaron Boone, you were literally just sitting there, dude. Like, you were just chill. He was mouth shut. He was just chilling. Get out of here. Like like free my boy Aaron Boone. He did nothing wrong. Like, yeah, that was just bad. Eventually, you guys are right. The programming on her phone that I'm not going to say because it'll kick me out of the stream starts with an S, ends with an I. Yeah, SIRI will end up being the new ump in the next couple of years.
We shall see. Not making it easy on themselves. I think we got an NBA example of a bad referee slip.
Driving on Wallace and a whistle when the basket count.
More importantly, that's going to be Rasheed Wallace's third foul.
And he said something to Ron Garrettson as he was leaving, but not enough to get teed up.
Let's think about now the power forward position for the Lakers. We said that the Blazers had to win that convincingly.
Yeah, but he's stripping him as he's running up the court. So, but see, that's what NBA, like, it's different, right? Wallace is actually chirping him.
Beat him up.
Pickman to Wallace. Ron Garrett.
Now, Rasheed Wallace is going to have to be very careful. Ron Garrettson.
It had been building up to this. Rasheed Wallace has been tossed. Listen to Ron Garrettson. He'll explain the reason why.
Timeout LA. Whack! Get out! Get away from me, Steve. Get away from me, Steve. He didn't say a word. Technical foul, Wallace. He's gone. No, not right. I asked him 3 times to stop staring at me to try to intimidate me. I'm done. He's gone. I asked him, I told him. I have already told Mike twice before to have him stop staring to try to intimidate me. He did it again. He's gone.
I'm going to start saying that to Christian. Stop staring at me to try to intimidate me.
Christian doesn't get
to
work.
I'm gone. I'm gone.
I don't know, man. See, like that Rasheed Wallace. I mean, he was intimidating him, man. He's this big dude, and this ref's this tiny little guy, and Rasheed Wallace is. But I don't know. I think that's a lot. I think that's a lot more reasonable than Aaron Boone getting ejected. But I don't know. I agree. I think it's the end of the road for umpires soon enough. But we shall see. I don't think that makes its way to the NBA or the NFL. But guys, NFL draft closing in on us. Just 2 days away. Christian is going to be back in the Motor City. It's a fun time of year because we get to see a lot of these guys we cover in the college game go pro. In the news today with the draft, it was reported that the Raiders tried to trade up for the Commanders' pick 2. You guys like the Raiders trying to jump in and get a quarterback? I don't see Aiden O'Connell being the QB of the future. So, are they going to jump up, or can they get one if they wait off?
I think the easy answer is yes. I mean, I do like them going up for. The problem is they're too far down the board. They're drafting at 13, if I'm not mistaken. That's a steep asking price. You know, when I think of a trade like that, the 49ers traded with the Dolphins in 2021, and it costed them their first rounder that year and 2 first rounders after that, and that was from 12 to 3. This is from 13 to 2. It would cost minimal the next 2 years first rounders, and then some second rounders and their pick this year. So I'm not willing to do all that. They'll have to figure out some way. They'll have to figure out some way to get a new quarterback because I'm not willing to trade all that, in my opinion. What are your thoughts, Christian?
First off, I'd like to say that Miami absolutely fleeced the hell out of the 49ers with that. Have fun with Trey Lance, who was hurt his entire career, and then you shipped off to Dallas, buddy. While we got like future Pro Bowlers. My thing, if the Raiders are looking to move up, the team that they need to jump above is, if they're looking to take a quarterback in the first round, is Denver. Because Denver is the last team that could realistically take a quarterback in the first round if the draft stayed the way it is today, like the order, where they're projected to take Michael Penix to really round out a deep quarterback room consisting of now would be Michael Penix, Zach Wilson, Jared Stidham, and Ben DiNucci. Absolute quarterback battle in Denver in the Mile High City. Everybody. With Zach Wilson getting shipped off for a bag of peanuts yesterday. So yeah, if I'm the Raiders, first off, I'm trying to jump a division rival because I don't want them getting the quarterback that I'm looking to get, but also be wary that Penix at that pick will probably be the last first round draftable quarterback, unless you want to absolutely reach on a guy like Bo Nix, or if you're really feeling frisky, letting Joe Milton throw 75 yards in a mile and a half elevation.
It's interesting to think about for sure. And then what I saw that came out yesterday also is the list of guys who are going to be at the draft. And I'm going to read these names off to you guys. And I'm wondering if you had to pick out of the 13, um, who is one that may not, that could somehow be left at the altar at the end of the first round, like our guy Will Levis was just a year ago. So we've got Terrion Arnold from Alabama, Jaden Daniels, LSU, Marvin Harrison, Ohio State, J.C. Latham, Alabama, Letu from UCLA, Drake May, UNC, Quinion Mitchell, Toledo, Malik Neighbors, LSU, Rome Odunze, Washington, Darius Robinson, DL from Missouri, Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver, LSU, Dallas Turner, linebacker from Bama, and Caleb Williams, quarterback, USC.
Brian Thomas.
The name that's most likely to not be drafted in the first round of that, in my opinion, is Darius Robinson. He's flirting dangerously with the late 20s, kind of around Cardinals at 27 territory. That's around where he's supposed to go. Maybe the Bucks if he's lucky, 26, but most likely an early second round pick. But also every year we do have to factor in there's players that the NFL likes more than the media does, or the general, just social media around the NFL world. He's there usually is that one guy that ends up getting drafted that we're like, oh, he gets drafted. Okay. And, Darius Robinson could be that guy. I've seen him mocked in like Daniel Jeremiah. A lot of people respect his mock drafts. They're pretty much the most accurate. So, but out of all of them, I'd be shocked if any of those other guys didn't get drafted in the first round. But probably, Brian Thomas, Christian said, and Darius Robinson are the two closest ones to not getting drafted in the first round.
Yeah, I was torn between both of them for the exact same reason. They are both flirting heavily with a late first round pick. And yeah, somebody is going to get Will Levis. As much as the NFL tried, because they really cut down, because I think they had like 20 dudes go last year, and then they cut down to 13, where these guys are solidified locks. I think that somebody will fall out, and I do think it'll be Brian Thomas, just because this is such a deep wide receiver draft, and it's a very deep cornerback draft as well. So I would also not be surprised if a guy who had first round projections like our buddy Keon Coleman or Cooper DeJean from Iowa, white boy of the year, if they fly out of the first round, early second round as well.
Well, luckily for them, they won't be at the draft, so they won't have to deal with the epitome of defeat, in our words of John Rothstein. So I'm rooting for at least all the guys that go to get drafted. It'd be a shame to get a nice suit made up and then you don't get to show it on ESPN. Christian, we've got like 5 minutes left. Do you want us to give you a chance to somehow make up for your egregious claim that Michael Penix was going to be an average quarterback?
All right.
Steven, can you pause the timer? It's playing some type of song in the background.
Michael Penix. Like, what in my lefty back? Oh my God. I thought we were going more on the short.
All right, Christian, I'm sorry, but you are cutting out, my guy. I think the people don't want you to explain why. Christian, I got nothing, and unfortunately, I'm just gonna have to stop because I don't know what you're saying. But yeah, no, I don't think Christian meant that Michael Penix was going to be an average quarterback. I think he meant something else last night. He had way too good of a final season to be average, in my opinion. But Christian's entitled to his take. I know Drew disagreed with the second part about it because he compared him to Tua. I'm curious though, Christian, why? What's with the Tua? We'll still give you one more shot. We'll see if the internet's working. Where did the Tua comparison come from?
All right, we can't hear him, but we know what he's saying. He's a lefty. Yeah, he's a lefty. Okay.
That's it. So it's only the arm. All right. To me, yeah. Goodbye, Christian. So, yeah, Drew. I don't see it. You know. Yeah.
Well,
like this guy said.
It's happened kind of all draft season where people have said Michael Penix when they're giving a draft evaluation. They've said Michael Penix is Tua, and I don't think that's fair. I mean, flip his throwing arm. Do you still think he's Tua? I don't.
I think Penix is able to stretch the field a lot better than Tua was at a college level.
I think they're so different. I think throwing motion is different. Even though they're both lefties, Tua's a little more compact, quick, while, Michael Penix extends a little more. He's got a stronger arm, but Tua does other things well. And Tua has more of that pinpoint accuracy that he's had since Alabama. Tua's definitely, he throws with more anticipation, while Penix, in college he doesn't really have to because he kind of has that nuke arm. But I will say this, Penix, he is the toughest dude to give a comparison to out of everyone in this draft class. I can go down the board, I think Williams is pretty, I get a lot of Mahomes vibes from him. Drake May, I kind of get that I kind of see a little Jordan Love kind of in his game. Daniels, I've said RG3 for forever. That's who I see, which is ironic because he might go to the Commanders. And then Penix is where it really gets tough. I don't really see a comparison for him. He's a different mold. He's older. I don't know. You have any thoughts on that?
To me, I agree because Penix, there's just a lot to his game, and there's no one at the pro level right now that, to me, that's a direct comparison. Drake May is very prototypical in my opinion. I think with him, it's really tough to say. I think I don't. To be honest, I don't know which one out of the two of them will be more successful at the pro level. I think they'll both. If they're both given the same opportunity, I think they'll both have the chance to be very successful. But I like Penix a little bit more than May just because he's able to, in my opinion, his mobility mixed with his ability to stretch the field is just, it's really good in my opinion and something that'll help him at the next level. We shall see, though. I will let Drew and Christian debate endlessly tomorrow with Drew's big board on the block. We got a lot to talk about tomorrow in preparation for the NFL draft. The last 5 minutes was just a preview of what we're going to get into tomorrow night with hopefully better internet. That's all for tonight, folks, on the Lastella Report. Make sure to tune in tomorrow for draft night coverage or pre-draft night coverage Thursday. We've got 3 hours of coverage coming to you. John Jacobs at 6:15, followed by pre-draft coverage at 7, and then the draft coverage at 8. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight. Back at it tomorrow morning is Pete Shepard at 7 a.m. Gerald White Noise Podcast at noon. Bleacher Brothers Show 6 to 9. And us, the guys, Lastella Report, Robbie, Drew, and Christian from 9 to 10. Thank you so much again for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow night on 102.9 The Game.